There's a word in metaphysical space that I've always struggled with, and it's called channeling. And there are people who often claim to be channelers, and I think you pay them money and they will tell you your fortune or whatever, and and they will change their voices and they'll speak differently and they'll take on a position of having something you don't in a way. But I was online the other day, um, in the looking at the well, YouTube presents me with things, and one of the things it presents me with is these podcasts from Next Level Soul, which is the people who had interviewed me some time ago. And and the interviewer is so Alex Ferrari is so good, so smart, and so tuned in, and he had online, I gathered, because it was advertised on my website, a channeler. She was African American, about 28 years old, and they always hype them a little bit, like they're going to tell you what the future is and where we're all headed and all these kinds of things that somehow draws people in. And I decided, I don't know why, to listen to her broadcast, her interview. And early on, Alex asked her to channel. And then he asked her all these questions. And as she was speaking, the exact answers that were coming to her were coming to me, almost word for word. And I went, oh, the same articulation, the same wordage, if you will. Strange ones like the one that I've been talking about in the last year, this idea of neutrality, which I don't know, I never knew where it came from, but she was using it in exactly the way I use it. And she was 28 years old. She also had had a big LSD trip, so maybe we're all connected to a drug space. But her talk, her speech, her insights were so informed, so touching, so loving, so guiding, so helpful. And and for me, it was really kind of remarkable because it just robbed me of every idea of having any kind of singular voice that I was simply tuned into, and I've always sort of known this, into a something else, and I guess it's channel to something greater, and it feels higher. It's quite noble. It's quite well spoken, and she started to say all these wonderful things that would sound very much like one of these classes. And my takeaway from that was gratitude that there are young people in the world speaking this language. As much as I am unbelievably grateful to have met Rudy, who I think probably on some level was kind of a massive channeler, the energy is clearly coming from something greater and funneling into people from all walks of life, from all parts of the world. And it is an active, dynamic principle of informational wisdom that comes into people and disseminates into the world. To me, because of my, age and sense of mortality, I want the world to have beings, especially young ones, around who have that. And the mere fact of her existence, and I don't remember her name, but the mere fact of her existence was like, yes, yes, the world will be guided. There will always be people channeling this wisdom. And The big difference really in some channelers from other channelers, I suppose, and we've seen this definitely even in this particular practice, is people who become channelers, who own it, who probably charge for it, who become identified with the channeling itself. And then those who I think enter into the spiritual Zen Buddhistic, deepest Hebrewistic Christian Muslim teaching of it, which has no name and has no identity. It's just this exquisite kind of knowing that pours through and is not meant to be owned or had. It is there to be. And there's a big difference between having it and being it. And in fact, you go to Rudy on this, it's a life's work dismantling the owner of it. I know for myself that the person who teaches this practice is an identity being, someone, who sits down to be a teacher. And I have a growing problem with that because it's a defining element that in some ways can be perceived as a limitation on the channel or the flow that comes in. People can identify with the teacher as opposed to the teaching. And everything in my body and mind and being wants to get rid of that or wants to be free of it. And what's happening in recent time, partly aging, partly end of life kinds of issues, are this feeling of no longer doing, but being the channel, no longer being the teacher of it, but simply living its presence. And I have met very few people, but Rudy was one who truly did that, who walked around day by day and emanated, was the being of this vast multidimensional wisdom that just poured through him. And people who knew Rudy, who got an opportunity to be in his presence, would feel it. It was so remarkable. And, Blanche and I were amazing beneficiaries of Rudy's beneficence, if you will. I mean, on and on. I can begin to tell you he's the one who made our marriage happen, who kept us together, who literally gave us a place to have a wedding, which was his home, arranged for all the food for the wedding, arranged for us to have an apartment when we got back from our honeymoon because we had lost our apartment. I can go on and on. Rudy tried to give me a career because he knew I could have one, and he presented me with a series of songs to write, and he said, "Write these songs for my musical." And he wanted me to write the book for his musical, and so I wrote this book for the musical. His songs were not great necessarily, but they got me to work. And I realized after the fact, when the musical did not go forward, he couldn't care less. He simply wanted me to get to work. And it was the first thing that I think I ever wrote that meant that I was going to perhaps have a career because of Rudy and his coming in to work and make me somebody who I had wanted to be and didn't know how to get there. This is the channel at work. It's a living presence. And Rudy was that dynamic. All of us are, because of Rudy at this point, witnessing this flow. And this flow of energy comes in and goes out. It goes out into a horizontal space so that you each get it, and then it lifts up so that every one of us becomes part of that channel. We become a living, vibrating part of it. There are people who sit every day and meditate according to the practice that we have and connect to that channel for a half an hour or 20 minutes or whatever your practice is. And you feel probably good about it. It stabilizes, it centers you, it makes you feel ready for the day, it makes you feel more alive than ever. And then you go about your day and mostly forget about the fact that you're a channel. and you just do your stuff and you get all caught up in the drama of human life. And then the next morning you sit down and have a glimpse of, oh, yes, yes, this, and then it's completely lost. The objective is to be the channel, be the energy, be the thing that is connected to something that is not containable, is not knowable in any kind of way. It simply is. And it comes in with such love and joy and beauty and force and knowing, knows you. It knows what to do with you. If you listen, if you present yourself to it, you become a living manifestation of this exquisite, larger, higher dimensional, transcendent energy. The incredible thing is, one, that it exists at all, and that connecting to it is possible, and that staying connected to it is kind of the journey. And the more you open and open and open, the more it uses you, because it loves this manifestation that it has created. Or let me say, we have created. But the we part is a confusing idea. It's better for me to just go it, them, as Rudy would do it, the guys upstairs who made this all into a reality that we get to inhabit. And our job is to inhabit it with the appreciation, the gratitude, and the wisdom to love it together, share it with each other, and make it a beautiful, wondrous space. We all have a different version of this. You know, I know some of you here are artists, and I look at your artwork and it's like, I don't make that kind of artwork. I make this kind of artwork or that kind. But the thing that's common in all the artwork that's being made is a movement toward an expression of something that is being channeled. And it has so many voices. It makes so many different kinds of music and different kinds of imagery. And it's all part and parcel of the magnificence of the beauty that's coming through. And when you open to that, I think if you're an artist and you stand there and you start to make something on paper or on canvas, or you're working with clay or whatever you're doing, you are bringing this unspoken, unknowable reality into a dynamic reality and focus in the material world. And what does it do? If people see it, they go, oh. And when you go, oh, that's an opening to the truth, to the larger channel, to the larger thing. That's what artists do. Musicians do that. Teachers do that. They give you a oh, moment. A ha moment is only a taste of the absolute glorious beauty of the moment-to-moment reality of life. I'm experiencing an incredible change in my life at this point. I never thought about it exactly. I didn't even know how it would work. And it's not dissimilar from many people as they get old, but for me, it's becoming very clearly defined and disseminated. And it really has to do with the dissolution. I've talked about this before, the evaporation of me, of Bruce. Of course, there's still a body, but God knows you would not want to inhabit it. It's got all these aches and pains and problems and issues and all that kind of stuff. But the channel is so present and so massive in a way that I can no longer look at it as time-based. It no longer is future. My past is like foundationally strong. I know I walk on solid ground. I had a good life that I really did enjoy and love, and still kind of supports me, but I don't reference it very much. The future, of course, you all know this, but at a certain point, you don't want to look there. There's nothing specific there other than what the arrival at totality, I guess, of being no longer a channel, but you're simply leaving the world and becoming the larger totality. That's all arriving, and I can feel that happening. But what's really happening for me is every second is essential. When I did the movie my life, the quote for the top of the poster was, "Every moment counts." And I am experiencing absolutely that. And I'm talking not like this moment and then that moment. It is a continuum of opening to and arriving at this very second as a profound, profound moment of creation. And each one demands a certain kind of acceptance, gratitude, acknowledgement, and effort. And sometimes there's a lot of effort. And I'm starting to have these things. Like, I'm not a crafts person. I don't usually hang things and do things, but that's all I've been doing. I've been putting things in frames and posters and physical stuff that is not my nature at all. And I'm not good at it, but it says, do that, do that. And I go, okay. I mean, the boxes arrived. I ordered the frames. I had found some old posters of things that I wanted to frame, even though I have very little room to put them. And then to try to hang them on a staircase that I have no balance for and could die in any minute putting up a poster. And I go, oh, well, all I can tell you is the directives moment to moment are so unexpected, and so not me, so not the person I have been. And what they're trying to show me, is you are no longer that person. You are this being. You are a part of this flow. And everything that's in front of me has to be taken care of immediately. And it has to be taken care of with exquisite arrangement of timing. And so that you don't let something wait for another 10 minutes. You do it now. You keep doing it now. And you do it with both hands. Rudy got annoyed with me once when he was handing me packages from on top of a shelf. He was on a ladder and passing them down. And I was going like this. And he said, no, you have two hands. You can go like that. There's a lot more you can do with this. And I didn't understand that, but I did have an ability to work faster and better. And that teaching was really, really important to me. And then there were all these other, I mean, I probably all told you this story where I decided once to try to cook at the ashram. I never cooked. And I was making a bechamel sauce, and I could not. I was terrible with recipes. And I'm trying to put together this bechamel sauce. And whatever I was doing, it was wrong. And I was getting very tense. And Rudy walks in the room and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm making the bechamel sauce." "But don't do it like that." And he says that it's completely wrong. And then he said, "You see what you're doing? You're putting all of this anger and all this frustration and all of this disturbance into the bechamel sauce. And when people eat it, they're going to be eating all of your tension. What a horrible thing to give people. You put love into this right now, or forget it. You do not serve your tension to people." And I went, I didn't know what to do, but I just started to open and feel love flowing. And this bechamel sauce went from a lump to a sauce with magical power in a way. And it turned out to be delicious. It was really beautiful. One, this is how Rudy worked. He took you and he saw all of your tension. He fed into the tension and disturbed it in a way that grounded out and then turned into flow. This is great teaching. This is great thing to pass on. One of the things I look at in myself and in other people is how we allow our clouds of disturbance to take over, how we start to worry and think and wonder, and we become lost in this incredibly unpleasant space of mind worrying, mind fearing, mind projecting, all of this stuff. And we live this life either absorbed in that or occasionally visiting that. But one thing that this practice does, because it's channeled to something higher, is it gives you an option when you're in mind and in suffering and in drama and all of that, to take a breath and ask for help to let go of your attachment to that, to bring love into the recipe, to let go of the tension you're feeding everybody around you and give them love and joy. And your job, if you're living, quote unquote, a channeled spiritual life, is to remember to do that and then to do it. So you do it on the spot. And one of the things I'm finding for myself, because when I was hanging those posters yesterday and cursing the world because I couldn't reach here and I was going to die there and I couldn't get that screw in there. I just said, whoa, whoa, that isn't the way to hang a poster. And I found a completely different way to do it, completely different. And it was incredible. It worked 100%. And it was like, get out of your own way and let the universe show you the path. And it does. It just does. But it doesn't if you don't take up the responsibility of doing the thing that's in front of you, which in my case is do stuff I've never done before. Just do this stuff that I'm being told to do. I have no idea why I'm being told to do it, but I'm not asking questions at all. It is expanding a certain part of my being and my character. It's also teaching me how to be a better husband, which is, I think at this point, the greatest teaching of my life is Blanche, because I have reactive patterns that are very old that can shut down or get annoyed or get angry at things. And the universe is saying, no, no. It is now only acceptance and only love, period. The minute you find yourself going into something that is annoyed or conflicted or dramatically unpleasant, you have got to stop immediately. And what happens is I don't have to even try at this point. This thing is starting inside me to go, and it changes the equation. It just changes it. And the sweetness and the flow and the ease of being with another person who is all other than you, which is all of us. We are all so bizarrely other than each other. And if we approach each other with this kind of conflicted drama and annoyance, it makes for a world full of drama and annoyance, and it fills you with that. All you have to do is go, no. You can do this thing of take a breath, or you can immerse yourself so deeply into this space, which you are able to do truly, and it will change the equation. It will do it. Its goal is, I can only call it harmony. This wonderful equilibrium, this harmonic happens in life, and there is this flow. So I live in this world here, which is full of, it's first of all, it's very quiet here. It's very still pointed. It's really lovely. It's very country-ish. We have a pond outside that we have put a lot of work into to make it look something like just a wild space. And it really is coming along. And then just recently, a month ago, we added fish to the pond, goldfish, koi, and some carp. And they're supposed to help clean up some of the debris and the greenery, and they're supposed to make the pond look, inhabited. And all I wanted was to see the fish. For 1 month, I walked around that pond and there's no fish at all. And I called the pond guy. I said, I think they're dead. All the fish are dead. And what happened and what's wrong? Should we test the water? Why do the fish all die? He said, relax, relax. The fish are going to be fine. He told me what pond food, what fish food to buy. And I did. And I tested the water, and the tests all came out like, like one test was one way, one was another. So it didn't say anything to me. But 3 days ago, Blanche and I just went to the edge of the dock, and we sat down with the fish food and just threw it in, and we just sat there. And suddenly we saw at the top of the pond these little circles of air coming up, and we're looking at them. And then suddenly these beautiful goldfish and these beautiful koi are rising into the top of the pond to eat this food. And I don't think I've ever felt more joy since I was like 2 years old or 3 years old. Every one of those fish that came up, it was like, we went to the movies the other night and walked out because for a lot of reasons. One, Blanche can no longer hear, so there were no subtitles and we just walked out. But in the old days, a movie would fill me with this joy. Now I'm sitting on a dock looking at a pond, and I am watching these fish rise up, and it's the best movie I've ever seen in my whole life. It is so beautiful. It is so wonderful. And I'm told if you do it every night, at the same time, they'll keep gathering. They will come and they will entertain, if you will, but they're really there just to eat. On the other hand, they are so beautiful. And I never imagined in my whole life that I would become an old man sitting on the edge of a dock feeding goldfish and finding more joy and pleasure in that than in almost anything else that comes up in the day. It's really an exquisite thing. It's an exquisite thing. I'm watching life unfold for me. It's teaching me new things about who I am. It's teaching me new things about what the world is. It's taking away a lot of the old stuff, so I don't really know. I can't relate too much to the old Bruce. My memory is going, I can't remember people's names. It's really awkward, but I don't care. I don't care. And I don't care because the moment to moment reality of what is happening in front of me is so exquisitely informed and so beautiful. I am one of those people who, when I reach for a Kleenex, I now understand trees gave up their being and someone created this amazing thing in this really, what used to be a rather beautifully designed box. So that tissue would come up so I could wipe my nose and throw it in a basket. I don't look at Kleenex as, it is an amazing thing. Toilet paper, even more. Because I lived in India where we didn't have toilet paper. And I'm telling you, it's a good thing to have in the world. So I'm very grateful for toilet paper. Not only toilet paper, I can give you a list. It goes on and on and on, and it's everything around me, literally everything around me. And as I said a number of weeks ago, if it's in front of you, it's God. I mean that. If it's around you, it's a gift. It is a gift. We have been given gift upon gift upon gift. If we don't celebrate that, that's our loss. The universe doesn't care. I mean, it does. It would love us to be happy. It would love us to be connected. It would love us to see the multidimensional, unbelievable vastness of what it has created for us, for itself. And if we don't see it, so be it. But if you do see it, and if you do the work, and you do start to open yourself up to channel this unbelievable, vast, infinite reality into this very, very specific, time-based, manifested space, you will see they're all one thing, and you're one with it. You are part of it. You are alive in it. You might as well celebrate it and really love what you have, because I'm telling you, it is gift beyond gift, and you and we and us and it are unbelievably lucky to be here. Enough. Questions? George.
Thank you for that, Bruce. That's really meaningful. I want to bring up a different subject, which is Big Indian and the shrine. And it's something that's meaningful, I think, to you and me. And we discussed a little while ago about it being a pilgrimage site that most of Rudy's students really don't pay attention to. They might go to Ganesh Puri, people go to Sarnath, they go all over the place, Jerusalem, Wailing Wall. When 2 hours from New York City, they have a pilgrimage to go to. So I would ask you from my heart to teach a class there, in the fall.
George, I know you and I just spoke about this recently, and I'll say a few words because I could give a whole class on it. I've been to a number of spaces in the world that I would call higher energy spaces, alternate energy spaces. Sarnath, where Buddha gave his first lecture, Bodh Gaya, where Buddha had his enlightenment, Glastonbury tour for some reason in England, I don't know why, and Rudys Shrine. These are 4 places where you go and the energy is altered from normal day-to-day energy to something of another vibration, if you want to call it that. Rudy's statue is a communication of real power and energy. If you sit with that statue, it is like sitting in a class with Rudy. I cannot explain that. It makes 0 sense, but it is authentic and real. And going to Big Indian to be in that space, to touch that energy, it's cheaper than going to India. It's cheaper than going to England. And it's right here. And it is a remarkable space, well cared for by the Subkoff family. Bob Sink here. There are people who do so much work to maintain it. And the old classroom, which used to be where I would teach class when I lived in California, I would fly in every 3 months or so and give a class there, is now transformed into a Tibetan monastic site, but it's stunningly beautiful. It is filled with energy. And George has asked if I would consider teaching a class there again this summer, fall. And the answer is yes, I will. And I will announce it in advance. And for people who want to come there and have a class in this exquisitely beautiful space with a Padmasambhava statue that was just anointed, if you will, beautiful statue. But then you can then walk up to the shrine, Rudys Shrine, and you can actually experience everything I'm talking about here, everything we do in class, just between you and Rudy, if you will, or you and the channel that Rudy represents. So yes, George, I will at some point announce that date. I just haven't figured out what it will be. Future for me like that is just I don't even know what to say about it, but we'll find a date. And for the time being, all I can say is those of you who have an inclination and a need or a desire or a willingness to just express your gratitude, come to Big Indian. It's really an unbelievable place to visit. Just park your car, walk up to the shrine, sit for 20 minutes. You will walk home changed by it. You really will.
Bruce?
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of people now. Who's the last person who said Bruce? Yes? Kathy, I think it was you.
I don't know if it's possible. I just want to put the idea out there for some of us who would love to come, but probably could not do it. Would you consider doing it online also?
Well, yeah, I would. The class at the in the old classroom, I would definitely do a Zoom from there, assuming we have a connection.
There's no internet.
Pardon, George?
There's no internet there.
Okay, I'll record it and I'll put it online.
Thank you.
That's okay. Anybody else? Wendy. Zach, Wendy, get your act together. Wendy first.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. So I just wanted to say thank you for today's talk. Just briefly, yesterday we went on a whitewater rafting trip, me, Zach, his parents, my daughter, her boyfriend. And there was a moment where we hit a rock and internally I heard the boat's gonna flip. You're gonna flip. And I don't know, whatever lifted me out of the water and somersaulted me and then dropped me in 55 degrees of water. I absolutely surrendered. I had no resistance to it whatsoever. I felt like I was in this bubble, this peace, there was no problem. I didn't even feel the cold water. And then it was that moment by moment, Zach's mom reached out a paddle so I could get close to the boat. I heard, pick up your legs, like don't put your legs down. Then I heard, grab the paddle to be connected to the boat. Then I heard, now look to the left and grab your paddle that was floating away, and then grab the rope. And there was just this, what you explained, this harmony. And we were by rocks. And then when I was holding the boat and they had taught us an emergency, like dunk and giggle, you dunk someone down enough to get like them to like be able to like be pulled back on the boat. But I thought Zach was going to submerge me. But all of and I got like this, no, I panicked. Once I was on the boat, I switched from being in that inner listening to now I was listening to outer. My daughter was crying, his mom, everybody was like, and that's when I started to panic. Until then, when I was listening inside, there was really, it was so real and so present. And I I wasn't afraid to die. I wasn't afraid to live. I was just very present. So I just want to thank you for today's talk because you spoke to what I experienced, and I'm still processing like what I'm learning from this, but it was really incredible.
You're learning all the right things.
And I think we froze.
You're froze, but you're still learning the right things. Zach, you can tell her that. Zach, you had a question? You both froze. Okay. Oh, Zach, your question?
Hello?
Yeah, go for it. Zach, you can speak.
It's frozen, but if you can hear me, I just wanted to say that we were talking about scheduling the big Indian trip yesterday. So it's cool to hear that you're doing a class.
Yes, I will. And tell me when you thought you would come. That might help. uh, Anybody else? Okay. Thank you all for coming. I will not be teaching a California class next week. I am going to visit my son Ari and his new wife in Washington, D.C., so there will not be a California class. And in 2 weeks, it's going to be the same old schedule, so we'll be back to the class in New York. Sorry, California. If you hear this message, I'll send a note out telling you no class. But anybody who wants to attend from California is always welcome on the Zoom, so we'll just fill it up. That'll be the fall. 2 weeks from now, it'll be a New York class. Thank you for coming. Love to everybody, and we'll be in touch again soon.